Our mission, Helping Parents Heal, is a nonprofit organization dedicated to assisting bereaved parents to become shining light parents by providing support and resources to aid in the healing process. We go a step beyond other groups by allowing the open discussion of spiritual experiences and evidence for the afterlife in a non-dogmatic way. Affiliate everyone, regardless of religious or non-religious background, and allow for open dialogue. Attendance today at this meeting is voluntary, and we are here for the benefit of learning from and sharing with other parents whose child has passed away. It is understood that our discussions are intended to be confidential and not designed to replace traditional therapy or spiritual counseling. Helping Parents Heal offers a wide variety of speakers to allow parents to be informed about many possible ways to heal, to connect with their children, and to learn about the afterlife. The views expressed by our guests do not necessarily reflect those of Helping Parents Heal, and we ask that you take from their presentations whatever may benefit you personally. Welcome, everyone, and thanks for joining us, Christine.
Yes, we're thrilled that everybody's here, and I just want to remind everyone that while Christine is speaking, if you want to put your questions in the chat box, then I'll be able to ask them a little bit later. But let me go ahead and read Christine's bio. Christine Salter is a psychic and evidentiary medium, spiritual teacher, and healer who is passionate about assisting grieving people in their own with their own spiritual gifts of spirit communication. Her kind and compassionate approach encourages people to explore their connection with spirit, including loved ones who have passed, while gaining trust in themselves that they can. Christine is dedicated to supporting people on their spiritual and healing journey so that they may reclaim their inner light that was dimmed by the passing of a loved one. To learn more about her, you can visit christinesalter.com. And without further ado, please join me in welcoming Christine Salter.
Oh, thank you so much. I can't see everybody, but as I'm I'm just feeling everybody coming in. So giving a virtual hug to everybody. I know that I get goosebumps. So spirits coming in. I know that we've all been under extra stress. That's probably an understatement. But we're all exactly where we're supposed to be in any given moment. And I know sometimes our egos or our lower self says, I don't agree with you. To tell you the bigger spiritual picture, we're all sitting where we're supposed to be. Not sure why I'm getting goosebumps, but that's always my spirit coming in, head to toe goosebumps. Probably the kids like, hello, Miss Christine. Some of the things that I want to talk about today, of course, my passion is helping people open up their own connection. I am an evidentiary medium. I'm happy to show you how to do it, because when you don't have to have a medium help you connect with your kids, I think that's the greatest gift in the world, when you can just have that little conversation in your head and you trust it that you're not making it up. And so, Spirit's telling me I'm just going to chat a little bit because I feel like a few more people may be coming in. But what I want to get started with is really just kind of a meditation, quick, to just set aside the day so we can really make this a sacred time together. I've got stress, you've got stress, so we're just going to put that aside. And then I want to talk about spirit communication, some of the pitfalls, some of the things that get in the way, your ego, and then give you more tips on ways that you can open your connections to your kids. And then I know that we'll be spending time and I'll get to answer as many questions as I can, general spiritual questions, mediumship questions. I'm not doing individual readings, so I can't get into those, but I'm here for you to pick my brain too, to help you on your spiritual path. So just listening. So I want everybody to take a nice deep breath. Close your eyes. And I know we may have a few stragglers come in. Nice deep breath in. As we're starting to get into this relaxed space, I want you to ask your kids to come in and be present right behind you, just in your mind to say, all right, come in and stand behind me. And what you may notice while we're doing this is you might get a tingle, a touch, a tap, a warmth behind you. So if that happens, it's totally normal and not to freak out, okay? So nice deep breath in. So we're gonna work with our imagination a little bit. And I want you to imagine is all the energy that you may have taken on throughout your day, throughout the last week, throughout the last month even, that you may have absorbed inside of you. I want you just to totally make it up and go within with your inner eyes and see where that energy might be being stored. And it might look kind of cloudy, might look like a sponge inside of you. And again, it's going to come to you in your perfect way. And you probably feel like you're making it up, and then you're in the perfect spot for that. And using your own body's innate intelligence, I want you to set the intention that we're just going to gather up in our center, in our core. We're just going to draw together all of the energy that we've been carrying around that doesn't belong to us. We're going to gather up all the energy that you may have picked up out and about. Take a nice deep breath in. Just going to relax just a little bit deeper. We're going to draw any energy into a ball, into our center that we may have picked up on social media, that we may have picked up via the TV or radio. Any energy that's not ours, we're just going to turn that into a ball. Using your body's innate intelligence. We're just going to have it right around our belly button, right in our center. And using your imagination, whether you see it, feel it, hear it, or know it, I want you just to imagine what color this ball is in your abdomen. That's going to be the first thing that comes to your mind. I want you to notice how big or how little this ball is, and whether or not it's solid or empty. And it doesn't matter. Just what do you notice? Allowing it to come into your awareness. Taking one more nice, deep, slow breath in. And letting it out. We're going to imagine that you can easily and effortlessly release this ball of energy that is not yours to carry, doesn't belong to you. We're just simply going to imagine that it's like a giant bubble. And we're going to move it out of our abdomen, just allowing the bubble to come out of your abdomen, out into the air in front of you. And with your intention, you're just going to allow it to be released. And watch it float up and away, knowing that the energy will go where it needs to go to be transmuted. It's not even your job to do that. Just your job to have the intention to release it. And if you notice a second bubble come up, that's okay. You can allow that one just to gently just float right out of you. No stress, no pressure. Some of you may have a couple bubbles, and that's okay. Now I'm going to ask you a question. I want you just to stay nice and relaxed as I ask this question. What color is peace for you? The very first thought that comes into mind. I want you to imagine that color is starting to shine down on the top of your head. And on your next breath in, I want you to draw that color down into the top of your head and allowing it to easily flow into your body, into your cells, out into your aura or your energy field, like a warm hug, allowing the energy of peace to envelop you and fill you. Allowing it to fill your abdomen and working down your legs. This is your personal color for peace. So anytime you want to have the experience of peace, you just have to imagine bringing this color in. It'll help shift your vibration. It'll help shift your energy to more peace. And you can imagine it flowing down into the ground, having a river of peace gently moving through you. And in this moment, if you find there's anything that has come to mind, do you feel like you're just ready to let it go? You just imagine, and with your intention, just send it into this river of light moving through you. Say, let the luggage go and let it flow. And if you want to fill up the room that you're in with this color, you can do that too. And when you're ready, when it feels right to you, you can slow the flow of energy coming into you until it stops. And it may continue flowing around you if that feels good for you. But just know that you're being bathed in your essence of peace. Take that in. Allow it to be your reality right now. And when you're ready, I want you to wiggle your toes, wiggle your fingers, start coming back to the physical plane with us. Move your shoulders around, stretch and yawn, come back into the physical body. You might want to yawn, stretch. Welcome back. I know some of you are probably taking a moment like Christina, I don't want to come back. Time to come back for now. The great thing about this being recorded, you can listen to that 1,000 times if you want. All right, so I feel just this softening of energies. I feel in through Zoom. So I'm just curious. I know I can't really get an answer back, but I'm just curious if anybody felt their child come in. So if you got a touch, a tap, a tingling on your head, a warmth on your back while we were going through that, that's your child letting you know that they're there and that they're present. So I have no doubt, because I do a lot of work with parents and kids and crossing the veil. So we're awake and aware here, and they on the other side can reach us. So I have no doubt that some of you, I don't know why I need to say this, but whatever, I'm just talking spirit. Some of you probably weren't gonna come, and you got a strong nudge of like, knock, 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 you need to come. Yeah, that's your kid. All right, so hopefully, and I see some of the messages coming up, and that's good. You could feel your son. I'm sure some tears came up too, right? Because it always does. It's kind of a heavy time on planet Earth. So however we can connect into peaceful energy, I believe that's going to make it easier to connect with your kids. So, all right. So I have a couple questions already that I've had people ask. I love it, the tingles on the head. I'm surprised I haven't, started doing this. I always look like I have bugs. I'm like, I swear it's just spirit. I had a question recently, And somebody was wanting to know about the other side. And I just feel like I need to answer this question because, you know, I'm a voice for spirit, and that's it. They wanted to know if our family on the other side, like when your child goes back, do they know your family? Can they connect with the family, or, you know, are they lost and all by themselves on the other side, floundering, I guess. And so what I want people to understand, because I know it's a huge fear for parents in regards to their kids, because you can't mom them or, you know, dad them now, is that on the other side, it's so much more complicated, yet less complicated, I think, than it is here. In that we have soul families. Oh, I'm getting goosebumps. Okay, so we have soul families, and those are people that we're growing at the same rate as, that we're, and I don't know all about creating, but my understanding is they're created all about the same time, and we're moving through these different levels and this different growth. And so when we have our life planned out, we pick a lot of people from our soul family, and then we come here and we have our experience, and then we go home. So the other thing that I find interesting is that a lot of times the child that passes seems to be like that one super strong bonded connection. Not that everybody doesn't love all their children, they do, but it seems to be like that one, like soul deep connection. And what I explain to people, and why I think it's for one, is that there's such a strong connection that before we even come to the earth, we have this arrangement that they're going to go home first, and then you're going to awake and you're going to grow, and that's going to be part of your plan. If it's a parent that's lost, it's not the same thing as a child. And so it's those soul connections that are soul family that go around and around and around on earth, it almost seems like the loss is deeper. I could be wrong, but that's just what I've seen in working with parents. And so it's somebody who you've spent so much time with, and so when they go home before you, it seems to almost be even more challenging. But on the other side, they get to see exactly what's going on with you at all times. They can hear all of your thoughts. That's when they go, can they like see me naked, or like how do they see me? Us humans get funny, right? I believe they see us as the energy that we are, and they really don't care what we're doing necessarily in the human realm, because they're not human focused anymore. They're spirit focused. So if your dad didn't know your son and now they're both in spirit, I guarantee you they know each other. I see so often like the little family home on the other side in readings, it's like, you know, they're playing cards or whatever. It's like this soul family home on the other side. And so it doesn't matter if people knew each other here. We know each other on the other side. I believe we know each other by energy. But it's also likely that they've had so many different incarnations and experiences that they've had experiences with those people too. Here on earth, we have a blindfold, and we get to forget what the other side is like, and the much bigger picture. And so I think sometimes that's why it's confusing to realize like, oh, my dad didn't know this person. How could they possibly know him on the other side? Well, because you're soul family, and you've been together for infinity, I guess. I don't know how to say it, but you've been together forever. So everybody knows each other. So are they by themselves? No. Did they pass by themselves? No. Did they suffer? No. I've had one person in the 14 years that I've been doing readings that they said they suffered when they passed. And I was shocked by it, because they usually say, I don't suffer. And I thought, why? And they chose it. They needed to understand what that felt like for their transition. And so it wasn't that spirit made them do it, but they wanted to have the growth that came from feeling what was going on with their body. So another thing that I want to say is that in general, in my experience, they're out of the body long before anything happens to them. They're out of the body long before anything physically happens to them. Usually they're off to the side and they're observing. So people are always worried, did they suffer? Nope, that's not the case either. As parents, we don't want them to be in pain, and we don't want them to be alone, and they're not. Who are the ones that are in pain? Right? Because we don't get to love on them the way that we want to. But something I want you to understand is, even though they're not here in the physical, I see questions, but hopefully Elizabeth will come to those for me. When we, sorry, my choo-choo just went out. Oh, thank you. When we're in the physical, their energy manifests here too. They can be in as many places as they want to be. So you're never hogging their energy. You're not taking them away from important things because they have the ability to be in multiple places. I have heard parents say, well, my kid told me that, you know, like kind of bugging them. And I think that that might happen if the parent's not growing. So they might have to give them a little nudge to get them to move to the next step. But you're always connected from here till never, because there's no end. So you're not hurting them. Your grief's not pulling them down. Your grief's not hurting them. All of these things that I hear from parents, that I hear other mediums say, and I'll just have to say this is my perspective on it, and working with spirit for a long time, that I think it just adds more pain and guilt to people. So I would highly recommend talk to your kids, ask them to be around, ask for those signs, ask for the pennies, ask for the feathers, all of those things, because my experience is, for them, it's fun. How fun is it? Like, mom or dad's been crying and they're having a really crappy day, and then they find the sign, and what does it do? It brings you up, doesn't it? Makes you smile. You're like, oh gosh, thank God they didn't leave me. And they're not going to. Those are just some human fears that we have. So if you think that you're going crazy because you think your child's talking to you in your mind, I will tell you right now, those imaginary conversations are your kids talking to you. And working with parents, there's been a lot of times where people realize, because we want this to be more difficult than it is, because it's really like subtle thoughts and ideas that come into our mind. We just have to learn to be aware and play with it and practice with it. They start to realize that all along their kid's been talking to them, trying to get their attention, because it really is this easy, subtle thing. So if you're having that going on, the human in us, the lower us, our ego says, I'm making this up. I'm losing my friggin' mind. That happens a lot. We think that we're crazy because society has taught us that if we hear voices, that apparently we're nuts. And I will say that we do hear voices, and it's your spirit guides. It could be God's source universe. It could be your child. It can be Jesus. It can be all sorts of beings. And I hope, and my soul work is to help people understand that it's natural. It's what's supposed to happen. It's part of being an awakened being, because that's what's going on with us here on the planet. We're having the rug pulled out from under us and maybe pushed down to the ground too, to wake us up to this bigger potential, to this bigger idea. And that's the whole point with your kids, is they're trying to wake you up so you can see this much bigger picture. One of the easiest ways that I teach to connect with their kids is the most simple but sometimes complicated, because we make it complicated. And that is through the use of automatic writing. I'm sure there's other words for it, but they just went out of my head, and that's okay. So automatic writing is actually one of the ways that I got started. So I haven't always been an open medium or talk to angels or whatever. I didn't open up till I was 26. I think that's important, because people think unless you're born this way, that everybody, you can't do it. And that's just not the case. Everybody is capable. So the simple approach is to get yourself grounded, just like we did this healing meditation. Put everything aside and just get yourself here, not thinking, because thinking you're in your ego and you're not in the flow and allowing energy to come in. So you would literally sit down with pen and paper, have a green healing pen from my coach. Dear, your child's name, what do you want me to know? And whatever starts coming into your head after you put that thought down, you just write it down like you're the secretary. So if I said, okay, write this down, you'd be like, okay, Christine, what do you want to say? It would be like, Christine, maybe you would just write it down. So it's the same thing with your kids. You're just going to write down. Now, some people get a little blocked. Oh, sorry. Thank you. Spirit's like, finish your thought, Christine. See. Write it down and then keep writing until it feels like it kind of stops. When you're done, go back and read it and see what was said. Now, what's going to happen is your ego is going to say, I'm making this up. This is wishful thinking. I wish I could see how many hands would go up like, oh yeah, I know, I'm having that going on. Because it's easier than we want it to be. That's somebody tinkling in my head now. That's someone's child's here. I don't know who it is. We try to make things difficult. You wanted simple instructions. Awesome. Do you have to write by hand? That's a great question. To me, I think it's important for the most part, when you write, when you do the physical mechanics of writing on a piece of paper, it moves energy. And so to me, that's important, but some people just, they need to type and that's just their thing, and that's perfectly fine. So I prefer the writing method, but if you're like, oh, as soon as you go into resistance, then that's not going to be your method. So then you can have another question with your kids. And again, the whole point of it is a detached perspective. So that means you're not attached to what it is that they say, because as soon as you do that, you're gonna be trying to project like, oh, how might they answer? It's really about, okay, I'm listening. I hear parents all the time say, I talk to my kids all the time. And I'm like, that's great. But when do you listen? When do you give them a chance to talk back? Because you wouldn't sit on that couch and talk at your kid for an hour, right? Well, you might, but they might want to say something too. And so this is their opportunity to respond back to you. So you pose the question, you be quiet, and then you write down whatever comes to you. I don't know who I have in spirit, but I call them the secretary because they keep me on track, and I greatly appreciate that. So they're saying, so if somebody doesn't get anything, and that happens sometimes, if they go to write and they just, there's a blank, there's nada. What I suggest is just start writing. My mind is blank. I'm not getting anything, because it just will get energy starting to flow. And that's the really important piece. And even if the first time you're done, you're like, oh, I'm not getting anything. What I don't want you to do is go, I guess I can't do it. So my very first time doing a medium reading, it was in 2004. I was in a training for it, and it was like 30 minutes of a 4-day weekend. And I could see the person's loved one, but I couldn't hear what he wanted to say. So Christine's ego says, well, I guess I can't do that. I can talk to the angels. And so what does spirit do? When I get back from that, I got called for my first professional reading. So exciting. And it was medium reading. And I cursed the angels because I didn't think I could do it. And they just kind of forced me into it and realized, and as a matter of fact, I could. And so I think it's funny that my ego just automatically said, well, I can't do that. So if you catch yourself doing that, I want you to hear my voice in your head right now. Go, shh, ego, I need your help right now. We're just going to put you aside, and I'm just going to practice. If this isn't something you've ever done before, please don't expect a novel the first time you sit down to write with your kids. I also suggest maybe 10 minutes, because when you start to learn to channel, and this is what it is, about 10 minutes at a time, because you're not used to working with energy like this, you can be really, really tired when you're done if you try and sit down for hours and hours. The last important thing to do when it comes to using this particular method, and it's important anytime we talk to spirit, is to cut cords of energy. And people panic because it's like, no, I don't want to disconnect from them. And what I have to say is the cords of love always stay. But you can't be functioning well as a human if you're energetically attached in all these other places. And so it doesn't make them go away. It's just an energy self-preservation technique that's important. Anytime we're done with this, I'm like, oh, and I disconnect from everybody. So it's something for you to be aware of. So, okay. All right. I feel like Spirit's keeping me on track because you know me, I could talk for the next 4 hours. So,
well, Christine, we have a lot of questions. Do you mind?
Oh, good.
Maybe I start asking some of them. First of all, Diane is saying, good point, we must be listening, which I agree with her and with you. We must be listening. That's the most important thing. Also, Christine A is saying, oh my, I wanted simple instructions like this, thank you, which is true. The most important thing to realize is that it's very simple to connect with our kids. We just need to get out of the way, right? So the first question that we have is from Doris, and she's saying, I still have not found out what happens to the babies that passed in pregnancy. I'm talking about 6 to 7 months of pregnancy. Could you maybe just let her know a little bit about if she can connect with her grandson and in spirit and how that could happen?
You bet. So there's a couple of things that happens with pregnancies that haven't gone to full completion, or even children that have passed when they're just, itty bitty. Sometimes they come back in a subsequent pregnancy, so that can happen. A lot of times what I see is they continue to grow up with the parents, and so they're there and they're present. One of the things that confuses people, though, is they think of the child as maybe 6 months old or 7 months in utero. That the truth is that they're a much bigger soul. So they may come across maybe as like a 3 or 4 year old. So say the grandmother wants to connect with a grandchild, you could literally call the baby in. If it has a name or doesn't have a name, it's all about intention. But they grow, they age enough where they can communicate with you. So I've had parents that have lost babies at 1 month old, and it's like, well, how can they talk to me? It's because they're a soul. They're not limited by our limited perception. So if I were to do a reading for somebody that had a little baby, say they were 6 months old, they'd probably come across to me as a 3 or 4 year old, so we could communicate with each other. And so they have the ability to kind of shift ages as necessary too. So ask them to come in, say, show me a sign, raise your awareness, be on the lookout for it, but you could sit down and have a conversation just like this, and should be able to get stuff coming through.
Thank you. She's saying, wow, that makes me feel so comforted. There's a lot of questions, but I want you to answer this one because this is very near and dear to my heart. Susan is saying, my baby, Darcy is saying, I'm sorry, will we see our children when we first pass? Can we hug them in the soul realm? I know that you'll answer this so well, and I think it's really important.
They will be the first face that you see. I'm getting goosebumps and emotions. Sorry, Spirit's like really whoosh, pushing this. Woo, hold on. They will be the first face that you see as you come out of your physical body. When you pass, you can hug them, you can kiss them, you can love on them, you can pick them up. I have no doubt they'll walk you back to the other side, and as they do, the veil the veil falls away more, and you start to remember the bigger and bigger and bigger picture, and love floods in, and all of that pain that you've been carrying, it will just be washed away in just an instant.
That's beautiful. Oh my goodness gracious. Yes, of course, they're going to be the first people that we see as soon as we get over there, and they are going to be just as happy to see us as we are to see them. Let's see, Kim is asking, I'm trying to hear my spirit's guide's name, cannot hear it, tried a pendulum and got the name X. Could this be possible? I think that's really interesting. Could X be possible?
The name X, huh? So what I would do with that and giving the name, sometimes we kind of get a gist of the name. And so I would ask your spirit guide this. I would say, okay, if this is the name, give it to me outside of me. Like I had a friend who got the name Simon as her guide, and she's like, where'd that name come from? Because it's usually not a name we're going to pick, and it's not going to be family. She opened up a magazine and Simon was written huge across the inside of the magazine. And she's like, okay, so ask them, show it to me in another way. And if I didn't get it quite right, then send me a repetitive hearing it, seeing it, feeling it, so you understand for sure what it is. The one thing that I want to say though is that they have a name, but I think intention and connecting with them is far more important than the actual name.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you. Sandra is asking, do they miss us? And I know you'll answer this so that she'll know for sure. For the most part, I get messages. My son is happy and okay, but a few times he seemed sad and sends messages through music, and same thing, most songs are uplifting, but some songs are sad. They can never be sad though. I'm sure that you also agree. They're never sad.
No, they're living in bliss. And I think part of it is that they try to convey human emotion to us because they're not this anymore. And so people are concerned, you know, are they sad? Are they worried? Are they any of these things? And they're not. Can they have concern for you? Yeah, absolutely. And that's coming from a place of love. So if you're sitting in kind of a dark, heavy space, they're going to try and get you to move. They're going to send things to you that try to uplift you or try to make you happy. But if you have something that seems like it's coming from sadness from them, I would ask you to just stop for a moment and say, okay, are they showing me my own sadness? Because they're not going to be sad. And all they want for you is to be happy and joyous and live in life and live in a life well lived, you know, put life in your life. That's what I hear a lot from them. So do they miss you? No, because they get to be with you at all times. They're one thought away. They're not gone. It's just us who feel like they're gone.
That's beautiful. Jacqueline is saying, I use a pendulum almost daily since you showed us how at the last conference. I feel my children helping me through it all the time. Thank you so much, Christine. So I just wanted to let you know that, and then get back to the questions up above. Suzanne is asking, are soul families comprised of young and old souls? I think this could be the case, ... So is that something you could maybe
Interesting. I don't, that's a good question. So why don't we just ask Spirit? I haven't actually had that thought before. So I work with Archangel Michael, so let me just tap in and just see. So what he's giving me the impression of is a large soul family, and then like smaller nucleus, smaller groups within the large. But do we have younger souls and older souls in a soul family? So let me just listen. Okay, so here it's more complicated than that. Okay, so sorry, my answer is a little slow. I just have to hear it from Spirit. What does that mean? So give me a picture so I understand. So so the impression I'm getting, I keep seeing like this great big like container with all these like jellyfish in it. I know that sounds really crazy, but Spirit works me with pictures, and it's like each is like a soul group or a soul family within a container. So all right, so everybody's growing. It's like older souls are helping the younger souls. So sorry. So soul families themselves are all the same age, but there's groups and pods that we all pull from and interact with. And so your actual soul family, you guys are all at the same rate, but there's other groups that you intermix with a lot. So
that's beautiful. And Beth is saying, and I agree with her, if you're interested in the soul families, read Journey of Souls by Michael Newton. That's a great book as well. And I'm sure he'll probably say something very similar to what you were saying as well. And then let's see, I have there are so many questions this evening, which is wonderful. Bren is asking, could they leave the body as much as a couple days prior to their crossing? Is that a possibility?
It is a possibility. I have seen, so particularly like if they're in a comatose type state, then absolutely they're not sitting in this. There's no way. They're already out. But I have seen people a couple of days prior, like all of a sudden maybe they're not mentally right, or there's other things going on. They can be out of their body. If they're in a coma, I have spoken with plenty of people that are comatose, and you can still connect with their soul, and so they can be in and out. Their soul can come visit you. Like if you have a parent that's getting ready to pass and they're comatose and they're not responsive, their soul can show up and visit you. And so that's something people don't realize, but they're kind of free to go back and forth. I don't know why I need to say this. I don't know who this message is for, but dementia also, they're kind of living in both worlds. And so as a human, we feel bad for them, but they have more freedom than we do. They're kind of, when they're not there, you're right, they're on the other side, and then they come back. They're kind of straddling both worlds. So
that's beautiful. That's a beautiful way of saying it. And I always feel like I have one foot here and one foot on the other side as well. And then I go home every evening when I fall asleep. I don't necessarily remember it, but I know that I'm with my kids and I know that we're having a blast. So I think that
everybody does.
I think it's important for people to realize that even if you don't know that these things are happening, a lot of times they are, and that our kids are actually taking advantage of the fact that we're asleep to be able to be with us and spend time with us. So I was wondering, Kelly is asking, describe cutting energy more, please. Could you do that?
Okay. Yeah, absolutely. So anytime we connect with somebody or somebody connects in with us, like we send a beam of energy. And have you ever been around somebody who afterwards you're like, oh my God, I'm so drained. That person just stole all my energy. Yeah, they were just zapped right into, and they just pulled it right off. Or you can connect with somebody and all of a sudden you just feel terrible. And they may have sent their energy into you. You're the repository, and they feel better. And so cutting cords, I work with Archangel Michael. He is the protector angel. He has a great big old sword, and you can just literally in your mind, because most psychic stuff works in your head, you can just ask him to cut the cords. So it's all this stuff is intention. So for me, I imagine, okay, so I'm just going to cut cords and disconnect from people. But if you're not entirely, we don't have to be so specific. So sorry, spirits, like, make sure they understand you don't have to cut. It's about your intention of just disconnecting from those that are draining you. Cords of love always stay, but everything else needs to go. So if you're not confident with that, just say, Archangel Michael, please cut the cords that are attached to me and that I've attached to other people, and release us both.
That's beautiful. Sarah is saying, I understand that our children know everything about their lives or past lives, but do they know about our future when they cross over?
I absolutely believe that they do. And I also know that parents want their kids to tell them exactly what's going to happen. And that's not going to happen. And the reason for that is they can't get in the way of our free will. They can't alter what's coming, but they will be there through your mountains. They'll be there through the easy parts. They'll be there as you make your transition. So they know when you're coming home. And they know what's on your path and what's coming up. And a big part of that is because you've made this agreement with them to work with you across the veil while they're there and you're here. And so, of course, they're going to know exactly what you have planned and what the route is for you. So
that's beautiful. I have a lot of people asking about the pendulum, and I know that you did that in, for the conference, which was amazing, but maybe you can just explain a little bit about it for people who aren't aware of the pendulum and give them a quick guide to how they could maybe use one.
I know, I'm like, man, I don't have one within grabbing distance.
Oh,
so sorry. A pendulum, that's okay. A pendulum is a divine communication device, basically. So it's usually going to have some weight on it and some sort of I like to say metal because metal is conducive for energy, electricity. So you would literally hold the pendulum in your non-dominant hand. That way we're not trying to control it. We're going to hold it in our non-dominant hand. When I taught it, and anytime I teach any kind of spirit communication, I always say, ask for your highest level guide to come forward and oversee your communications. Spirit taught me that a long time ago, so that's how I teach it. Archangel Michael is perfect for it. So you can say, Archangel Michael, come in and oversee my communications. And so the first step, and I'll try to make this really quick, that I have you do is you hold it in your hands and imagine energy coming out of your palms, because you have palm chakras, and just clearing the energy out so it's kind of vibrating with you. And this is just the way I do it. I always say, show me yes. And the pendulum will pick a direction. So maybe it goes clockwise or counterclockwise, or it might go back and forth. So you just, until you're clear with what that is. And then you can say, show me no. And it should go in a different direction. And then you can, I always like to test it. I'll say something that's not true and see how the pendulum responds. Does it say yes or does it say no? Like, is it aware? I had somebody ask me the other day, they said, Christine, there's this medium who said that it's your subconscious working the pendulum. What is your view on that? And years ago when I started with the pendulum, I literally with my eyes saw Spirit's hand touch the pendulum and move it. I don't believe it's coming from us. I believe it's coming from the kids. You can ask, are you here? By your kid's name, and just see what it does. And then you can start to ask questions. The challenge is asking very specific questions that are easily answered by yes or no. Because otherwise it's like, I don't know how to answer this. So it has to be really specific. There's a thing called a pendulum map you can get that has answers. So you can hold the pendulum at a point, you can print them out from the internet, and it will answer depending on what questions you have asked. And so that's a way to get a little more insight, but generally yes or no questions are going to be what's easiest with the pendulum.
Well, and the people who attended the conference just loved that. And it really is an easy way to be able to get answers to things that we need to know in life as well. And and it's pretty amazing, because even though you think that it might be your subconscious that is driving this, if you're holding the pendulum, all of a sudden it will be going in a certain direction, and you're really seriously not moving whatsoever.
You're like,
so,
I'm not gonna move, and it
yes,
moves
and
anyway.
it does anyway. So just try it. I mean, not, you know, every way that we learn to communicate with our kids may not work for every parent the first time, but these are all just tools to be able to do so. And I love the fact that a lot of other people in the chat box are saying that they also go home with their kids at night, and they know that they do, which is wonderful. I also have, for instance, I just want to say that Deb and Rachel had an incredible reading with you and Phoebe, and they're just saying that the words that you used, that Phoebe said during that reading, were just so comforting to them. As well as, let's see, Lynette is saying, I just have to say quickly that as I close my eyes, I can see a blackened doorway with multiple people in the door just standing there. It's almost like an X-ray. Does that sound familiar to you, Christine?
Yeah, so if you're seeing black, I would say your third eye is probably not totally open. So just intend, like, okay, I want to see more. I want to see color. But you reading that, I feel like, oh, she needs to walk through that door.
Oh, wow.
In your imagination, go through the door, see what's waiting there.
Oh, that's beautiful. Goodness, I just got goosebumps.
I know, like, she needs to go through the door.
Yes, okay. Claudia is asking a really interesting question. Thanks, Christine. Can you tell me something more about working with Archangel Michael? I work with him, and he's funny in that he insists he write the syllabus, and he gets cranky when I try telling him what I want to learn. LOL. Does that sound familiar?
Oh, Archangel Michael. Well, I call him my BFF. He's available to everybody. He is St. Michael in the Catholic Church. He's the patron saint of police officers. He's non-denominational. My experience with Archangel Michael, and maybe because it's some of my personality too, is that he is funny. He's sarcastic, and I've talked to a lot of parents who have this experience too. He's also pretty straightforward and will tell you how it needs to be or how it is. And so when it comes to, like, if you start feeling called or drawn to work with Archangel Michael, he's really going to kind of put you to work. That's a lot of what his job is, I believe. He's the one who always tingles my head and makes me look like a crazy person because I'm like, stop touching my head. So what I would do, and hopefully I can intuit what the question really was, is really believing that it's him. And just following. I feel like just listen more. I guess that's the message. Sorry. Sorry, not sorry. Listening more and feeling it and allowing it to come in. Archangel Michael's not one that you're really going to tell. He's going to tell you. But he is loving and he is kind. He's in charge of the light workers, so the souls that are here to help humanity wake up, the natural healers and psychics and loving, kind, compassionate people. So he's in charge of us. So if I say that and you're like, wait a minute, I heard that, or ding, ding, ding. Yeah, he's your supervisor. So you're getting a phone call from him right now that you need to just sit down. And just like I said with the kids, you can write. Same thing with Archangel Michael. I do have a free video series on my website that you can, I talk about a lot of these things and also how to connect with Archangel Michael. So I have it in my group, and then I can always give the link to directly to the course. It was made just for parents. So
that's wonderful. Thank you. We don't have much time left, but Kimberly is asking something that I think applies to all soul families. She said, in a few readings, I have been told my son was my husband and my husband was my child in past lives. I'm still trying to wrap my head around this one. LOL. What are your thoughts on past lives?
Okay, so I'm probably going to say things that people ego might not like so much. So I'll just tell you that right now. I've done a lot of past life work on myself. There's a meditation that I use. I've used it to clear out past lives that have been affecting this one. And so when our soul decides what we're going to work on, what big lesson, what, is it compassion, is whatever, what are we going to work on? We then, in our soul family, see who's going to play the different parts. So what do they need to learn? And so you could be male, you can be female. You could be, maybe you were the parent and they're the child, and this, they have been your parent and you've been the child. My daughter, when she was 3 years old, she hadn't heard any of this stuff, said to me, you used to be my grandma and grandma used to be my mom, and I like you better as my mom. So we take on the different roles depending on what it is our soul is trying to accomplish, depending on what we're trying to learn. So yeah, most of us have been both genders. Most of us, and nobody really likes this, but that's okay, we've tried on most of the things that we can experience here. So have you been killed before? Most likely. Have you killed before? Most likely. Have you been rich? Have you been poor? All these different sides of the coins. That's how our souls learn, by having these experiences. And so to us, this is the most sacred journey we can take. But here on earth, we're not so thrilled to be here, but our souls are thrilled that we're here. So I would suggest maybe looking into a past life regression if you feel called to that, so you can see yourself in another perspective, another experience. Because I found for me, that just kind of broke open my mold. Like, oh, look at that. Oh, I did this, or oh, I've had this experience. And it's still me, and it just shows kind of the growth that's happened. So if your child needed you to be the dad last time, then you were, because that's what everybody needed to do.
Well, that's beautifully said, and we have just a little bit of time left. I first want to say that Marie is saying, I have taken some classes with Christine, and she has been amazing with helping me not only to connect with my son, but also helping me move forward in healing. So grateful my son led her led me to her. Melissa is asking a question that I think is fascinating. Maybe we could wrap up with this question. I'm a little confused. I have come to believe in past lives, so I don't understand why our kids need to continue to grow up in heaven. If they have lived past lives into old age, wouldn't they automatically be grown and wise?
So let me think how to answer this question. That's a really good question. When they have, and it's not, so it's, all right, let's hold on a second. Let me get this straight in my head and what Spirit wants me to convey. So on the other side, I have seen like baby nurseries or preschools where the little kids are. There's growth that happens when they're on the other side and we're here in the physical. So they do continue to grow and evolve in the family unit. So it's like they're still needing to be part of the family unit. There's still things for them to learn and grow, but a lot of it is about interacting with the earth plane versus the soul plane. So while they're there, they're still learning in the different stages how to interact and how to affect us here. Some souls are ancient and they don't necessarily need that, but they're willing to play different parts also for our growth. And so it may not be every single child or soul, because really, I mean, we're all souls, right? Most of us are pretty well grown, but it could be a very young soul that needs to have this experience. I think that a lot of it has to do with the interaction with the earth plane, and that's why they would stay in that state instead of going back to light or whatever it is that they're on the other side.
Okay, thank you. And I have so many people like Michelle who had to leave early who is thanking you. I have one person, and maybe we could finish up with this, asking if you do mediumship reading. I don't see that on your website. Maybe you could just explain what you do. Is that okay, Christine?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I've been a medium for 14 years, helping people doing readings. But I have recently retired, and that's why you're not finding it on my website anymore. I'm stepping further and further into teaching because that's my absolute passion, helping people heal their trauma. So I have a Facebook group where I mentor parents. It has the free video series in it. I have a healing group. It's a paid membership group that I just launched. That will be working with Archangel Raphael and how to heal the trauma and be able to move forward in life. And so that's my newborn baby in a sense of what I'm offering people. But I'm working more in getting another video series put together, putting together a mediumship training program, and I'll put together a more detailed mentoring program because I love working with the parents because, man, you guys are determined. And I love that because it's like, I'm going to figure this out. And so you guys make the best students.
Well, thank you. That's perfect. So again, it's www.christinesalter.com. Again, she's been with Helping Parents Heal for such a long time, and I just feel so grateful to you, Christine. What we always do at the end of these meetings is to have everyone unmute themselves and say goodbye and thank you to Christine. And we have a very full week this week. I think we have somebody every night. Is that right, Irene? We have William Peters of the Shared Death. Let's see, the Shared Project.
Wednesday and Friday night, I think, right? Oh, wait, Roseanne's speaking Thursday night too.
Yes, Roseanne Norris is going to be speaking, and
Jamie Clark on Friday.
Yes. So anyway, we have a bunch of wonderful people coming. Please join us, and thank you so much for being here. And again, go ahead and unmute yourself and say goodbye.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much, Christine.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Elizabeth.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Liz.
Liz.
Thank you.